Hello everyone, welcome once again to Radical Academy, and in this video we are going to continue from where we left from, and this is biology and this is under variation. Now you must be able to understand that variation is one of the topic that is very common and always comes in your final exams, and it is that importance that you must be able to understand, conceptualize the fundamentals that underlines what is variation. So we looked at the definition of variation, which we can just say these are just differences that exist among individuals, organisms, or species, or individuals of the same species. Okay. Then we also talked about the types of variation. So we talked about discontinuous variation. We talked about continuous variation, and then we gave also example. Now, to actually continue from that part, we are going to look at what is called adaptive features, or rather what we can normally understand about variation, which is out into what is called natural selection that happens in the natural world. Okay. Now, we must be able to understand what is natural selection. So, if you're looking at, first of all, variation, to understand variation is that when you bring individuals, okay, or rather organisms, and we begin now to compare them, okay, you find that other people are very tall, some other people are very dark, some other people, let's say, for example, they are very short. So, based on these natural, the inborn of these attributes that they have, okay, these same attributes can result into what we call a natural selection. And what does natural selection mean? So natural selection implies that nature selects, okay, what is going to obviously proceed to the next generation, or simply the natural selection is a selection of those individuals, organisms that we can term that they must be able to be under what is called survival of the fittest. So when we think about that, we are talking about, let's say, for example, if you are taken to China or Russia or even UK, you'll find that the natural environment is different from ours here in Zambia or in general Africa. So based on the natural environment, okay, so it is going to be able to affect you in the sense that where you are coming from, Zambia or rather Africa, it is not as cold as where you have gone. So at the end of the day, we have to be able to adapt to the environment. So what does that mean? Okay, it simply means that there is going to be natural selection. Okay. So natural selection uses the conditions of that environment. So if it is too cold, so when you look at cold environment, it implies that you have to have some features, okay, natural inborn features under which nature is going to be able to allow you to survive. Okay, so you are dependent on what nature actually wants, okay, but nature is not dependent on you. So this implies that I have to have certain features that are going to allow me to survive in this cold environment. So you find that human beings are very, hostile to cold environment. So what do you do in order to adapt? Okay, what is going to happen is that we're going to put a lot of clothes. You're going to buy, clothes that are going to be able to help us generate more heat so that we can raise the temperature, which is above this kind of a cold environment. Okay, so when you look at in this cold environment, we give examples of a polar bear. Okay, so obviously this is a common sense. Okay, when you go to regions like the Antarctica or maybe the tundra region, you find that those environments or those places, human beings cannot be able to survive. Okay, why? Because they don't have certain features. Okay, and we said that variation, okay, these are just differences, okay, that exist, okay, obviously individuals of the same species like sapien, or maybe dogs, or maybe polar bears. We are trying to compare, those organisms within the same species that they belong to, okay. So the cold environment, it is going to, because that is nature, the cold environment is going to entail which type of organisms are going to be able to survive in that particular environment. So if you are to do an experiment to understand what natural selection does, is this: if you are moved from this adaptable environment that we are living in, and then we are taken to that environment, the cold environment, the tundra region, what is going to happen is what? Okay, we are not going to be able to survive because we don't have those features under which nature wants us to have. So what nature will do is that it is not going to allow us to be able to, survive that cold environment or that harsh environment. So what is going to happen? It implies that if we human beings were taken to such an environment, we are going to actually die, or rather extinct. Okay, we are going to undergo what is called extinction. And this is the reason why when you go back to your history, there is those animals we call dinosaurs. Okay, at this time we no longer see those. Okay, or we used also to see the ostrich. Okay, they are no longer also able to be seen anymore. So this implies that at that particular point, okay, in time, or some evolution, some changes happens under which whatever animals, the dinosaurs, the ostrich, they couldn't actually have the features to enable them survive for the next generation to come. And this is the reason why we no longer see those animals as of today. Okay, so you can now begin to understand what is natural selection. So organisms that have more strong genes, okay, appears to survive. So if they survive, they are also going to undergo, obviously, be able to perform the function of reproduction, and those genes are able to be transferred into their offsprings, so that because they are strong and they happen to survive the harsh conditions. And you find that other individuals that are not, strong, don't have strong genes, will actually be eliminated because nature doesn't allow them to be able to, survive. And this is where you actually hear the term called survival of the fittest. So only those individuals, organisms that are fit, okay, in that environment, they are going to be able to survive, and then obviously reproduce, interbreed, and produce new offspring that are going to be able to even live longer or even survive. So that is some of the basic fundamentals of what we call natural selection. So if you want to understand more of these under biology, natural selection, remember to subscribe, like, as well as share our videos. So wherever you're watching us from, it could be Facebook, you can go to Radical Academy. Also on my personal Facebook page, that is Mike Wada, you also find these videos. And also on YouTube, it is the same name, Radical Academy, and also TikTok, Radical Academy. So without much further ado, thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next video. Thank you so much.